Really simple for this one. You cannot make four outs on the base pass and expect to win many baseball games. What is up? What is going on, everybody? Welcome back and welcome into the Seattle Mariners post-game recap. The Mariners lose this one tonight, 3-1 to the Toronto Blue Jays. They fall back to 500 at 10-10. And they'll look to get back on the right track tomorrow with Logan Gilbert on the mound. As always, before I go any further, hit the like button for me. It does help out the channel tremendously. Comment your thoughts on the team and the game down below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for me. Thank you again, everybody, for all the support as usual. Yeah, I mean, the Mariners make four outs on the base pass. Cal Raleigh's thrown out trying to extend a single into a double. Rowdy Tellez is thrown out going from second to third. And then Randy Arozarena's gunned down on Luke Raley's double, trying to score. And then Julio's caught stealing second in the eighth inning. Kind of the story of the game again, right? I don't really know what else to get too much deeper into this one with. A little bit of the same feeling for me from the Reds game one, where, series is still right there in front of you to win. If the Mariners bounce back, win tomorrow, win Sunday, then, so be it. These games do happen. Certainly, I don't want to say it felt super winnable, but I mean, you don't make those errors on the base pass and those guys just stay where they were. And, maybe that game works out a little differently. Cal's base running blunder and Randy's, or Christopher Negron, whoever you want to blame for that. Those both happened in the same inning. So that could have been a potential big inning for the Mariners that they kind of threw away. So, sometimes baseball happens. You hate when it's self-inflicted, though. As annoying as it is when bloopers drop in on you and, you're hitting the ball hard for outs. It is part of the game. That stuff tends to even out. But making poor base running decisions, all night is just, stuff that can't happen because you are throwing a game away. You are making mental errors. And, the Julio's caught stealing, Julio's a good base runner, right? Like, that is just part of being aggressive and stealing bases. You're going to get caught. The thing for me with all of them outside of the Julio one is that none of them were close. Cal was pretty much out by a mile at second. And it was the right fielder. Who was the right fielder for the Blue Jays? It was Barger. He made all of them except for the Julio caught stealing. But Cal out by a mile. Randy, watching the game on Apple TV, I thought Randy had stayed at third. I didn't even realize he was coming home. He wasn't even in the picture by the time they showed it. And it looked like Negron was waving him home. So, and I know Rayleigh got into second, so maybe he thought he could kind of steal one there. And I get with two outs, you're going to try and be more aggressive with sends. But it's got to be when it's 50-50. That's when you get aggressive. When it's hey, this is kind of a toss-up, but there's two outs, let's go for it. That was 99-1. 99% chance he was out. I mean, it didn't even take a perfect throw. I could have lollipopped it in there, and it would have been fine. And then what was the other one? Rowdy Tellez, tagging from second to third. Wasn't even close. He was out by, it was clear. The throw, it's not I can live with it if there's four plays where it's hey, they were bang, bang, and the Blue Jays just made the play. Now they did make the play, right? If I was a Mariners fan, I'd give Berger a lot of credit for that. He made good throws, but it wasn't oh man, without that perfect throw, the Mariners would have been safe. They would have been out on pretty much all of those, except for maybe the Julio steal is the only one that I could kind of, go, okay. But even there, you're down 2 in the 8th inning. I get Julio can run and that run does matter. But when you're down by 2 late in the game, you're kind of just hoping you've got Polanco and Cal due up there. You're kind of hoping one of them just runs into one a little bit. I don't think you really need to try and manufacture a run with the middle of the order coming up. You kind of want to let them play it out a little bit. And, who knows if, Julio stays put, Polanco was up 3-1 in the count. Maybe was it Jimmy Garcia gets a little nervous and throws ball 4 and you got Cal up as the go ahead run. So, just costly mistakes for the Mariners all around. The good news is I actually, again, thought the at-bats were pretty good today. Francis has been really good for the Jays. He was great last year. to finish out the year for them, and I thought he threw the ball well. The Mariners, hit some balls into the gap, had a couple walks, like not a good offensive performance, but I didn't think it was as bad as the one run would indicate. Brian Wu got off to a slow start in this one. He was getting hit pretty hard early. And truthfully, I thought he looked bad in the first few innings, but he settled in, gave the team 7 innings, which was huge because the bullpen was really taxed. And now they should all be all hands on deck tomorrow with Logan Gilbert going. So I'm not going to freak out about this one. Like I said, you got Logan on the bump tomorrow. And nothing's guaranteed. I'm not trying to come on here and say Logan's going to shove and the Mariners going to win for sure, but you feel good with Logan going. The bullpen's going to be everybody ready to go, and hopefully the offense can not just run themselves out of innings consistently. And, you feel like you got a pretty good shot. Troy Taylor was sent down today. Casey Lawrence came up. Lawrence pitched 1 inning, so he didn't even use really any major high leverage arms. A little disappointed that Taylor was sent down. I get there's not a lot of guys with options in the bullpen. Bizardo, Vargas would all have to be DFA'd. Not that you do anything with Vargas right now. So it's easier to send Taylor down, bring him back up in 10 days and go from there. That'll be more than fine. And then Lawrence will probably go down at some point, maybe when Matt Brash is ready, maybe sooner rather than later, hopefully. So, no, not a big deal there. I know some people are kind of freaking out about Taylor being sent down. I don't love it, because Taylor was really good last year, but the options to be sent down were essentially Legumina, who's looked really good. You could have optioned Emerson Hancock and then brought him back up, for the next homestand against Miami. But Hancock pitched well enough yesterday that I do think there is something to, a guy deserves to stay in that big league dugout, right? Like, one of the reasons why I was done after that Tigers game and wanted them set down, he didn't deserve to be in the dugout. I know that sounds like a weird thing to say, but Hancock did not deserve it after that Tigers game. He did deserve it after yesterday. So, they leave him up. It's kind of I think a good gesture. And, I think Troy Taylor can help, but, they probably viewed after that outing, and maybe he does need a few more outings in Tacoma before he's, 100% back. So hopefully he gets to pitch a little bit down there, and then he'll be back up, I'm sure, soon enough. But, these short starts, the Red Series was great for winning 2 out of 3, but, you had Castillo go 4, Bryce goes 5, Emerson goes 5. Your stars only cover about half the total innings in that series. It puts a lot of pressure on the bullpen, and it forces you to make some of these roster moves that we've now seen, the last couple of days. So it's been a bit of a musical chairs with that last bullpen spot. But yeah, I didn't think Brian Wu had his best stuff today by any means, but I always admire when a pitcher does not have their best stuff and can still go out there, give you 7 innings. And Brian Wu kept them in the game. Without the base running blunders, this maybe goes extras at 3-3. I think the Mariners could have scored at least 3 runs without some of those base running mistakes. And Brian Wu kept him in there. Blue Jays put pressure on all game, but Wu did a nice job of wiggling out of some trouble and did exactly what the team needed them to do, like I said, to reset the bullpen. So let's get into the box score, and then I'll get out of here. Really not much to say on this one. It's just hopefully they win tomorrow and it doesn't compound and create, a string of losses. Brian Wu goes 7 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 3 earned, 2 walks, 4 Ks. Again, certainly did not think he was at his best. I would say if as a percentage, 100% being the best for Brian Wu, I would say that was like 65 to 70% Brian Wu, but did a good job to battle through it, kept the team in the game. Casey Lawrence does exactly what he needed him to do, throw a shutout inning there at the end, kept them alive down 2, and you've got the bullpen all hands on deck for tomorrow's game with Logan. Offensively, I don't want to say that they were amazing and just base running blunders cost them. This was not a great game for them. But I think it was a little bit better than the 1 run would indicate. Julio was 0 for 3, was hit by a pitch. Ready for Julio to get back going. Was swinging the bat pretty well after that Texas series. Struggled a bit in Cincinnati. Not great today. Not a lot of hard contact from him. It's been a better April from him, but ready to see another little hot streak. I'd like to see Julio get a couple hits tomorrow, put one in the gap, maybe even get one out of the park. Would like to see him get going again. So he's starting to dip back down to that type Julio performance. So hopefully a big game tomorrow can get him going. Polanco was 1 for 4. Cal was 1 for 4 with a single, tried to stretch it to a double. Tough game from Randy. He was 0 for 3. I guess the offense wasn't, I kind of said they were all right. Look at the box score. It doesn't look all that great. But Luke Raley was 1 for 2. He had a double. Dylan Moore pinched hit, was 0 for 1, also had a walk. Nice game from Rowdy Tellez, minus the base running error. He was 1 for 1 with a walk and a solo home run. So good to see the power coming from Rowdy. He can get very streaky with the home runs. So it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world here for Rowdy to go on a little bit of a tear and maybe put a few out of here on this to finish up this road trip in Toronto and Boston. The base running error was bad. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if that was Rowdy's decision, if it was a bad scouting report on the right fielder, if Negron told him to go. I don't know. But that's a big mistake. But other than that, Rowdy, probably along with Brian Wu, the MVP of the game. Donovan Solano, 0 for 1. I am desperately hoping Solano can get going here at some point. I'm kind of running thin on patience. I'm hoping that just it clicks and he has like a 4 for 4 game at one point. But I say it in every recap, but man, him and Garver have got to get going because this team is going to struggle against left-handed pitching if those two can't produce at all. Maybe you think about Tyler Locklear at some point. I don't know. Miles Mastroboni, 1 for 2, had a solid base hit. Rivas pinched hit for him. Didn't necessarily love that pinch hit, but I guess I get it against a lefty. Rivas was 0 for 1. Ben Williamson was 0 for 3 today. Did make, I think, a couple decent defensive plays. And JP was 0 for 3. Again, that's not good. They weren't good offensively today. I did think they probably left a couple runs out there, though, with the base running blunders. So, certainly not good, but it could have been a better offensive performance for the Mariners. This is a tough road trip, right? Cincinnati, Toronto, Boston is no road trip is a cakewalk, but this is not an easy one here in April. Before the road trip, if you would have told me, Jay, they go 4-5, I probably would have taken it because then you come home for the Marlins and the Angels. We know this team struggled with the Angels last year, and the Marlins took 2 out of 3 from the Mariners last year. So nothing's a gimme, but you feel like that can be a 4-2, maybe even a 5-1 homestand. So the key with road trips like this is just don't get buried. And that's my concern here. Don't let this series turn into a sweep and then go to Boston and get swept here, where you start to bury yourself. Just, find a way, get tomorrow or Sunday, even if you get one here, maybe get another one in Boston. Maybe you find a way to win the next 2 here and get one in Boston. If they can go 3-3 with the Toronto-Boston stretch, I'm fine. That would put them back home over 500 with what should be a winnable homestand. So I'm not getting too greedy on these 6 games. This is a tough trip. And so we'll see what ends up happening. I would love for them to win the next 5. That would be amazing. I don't see that happening. I think they're going to face Garrett Crochet in Boston, so it'll be difficult. Today definitely felt winnable. I think Toronto would say they also left a few runs out there as well. So this wasn't quite like Reds game 1, where it felt like with just a little better performance, you had it in the bag. This was just some blunders that maybe cost the game for being a little closer. It was winnable. It certainly was. And you got that 7 innings from Brian Wu. So like I said, there's never a loss that isn't disappointing, but they are going to happen. And I didn't expect the Mariners to go 6-0 in Toronto and Boston. My hope was kind of 3-3, get home and do some damage. And that's still very much on the table. So hopefully they bounce back tomorrow and this doesn't kind of trickle into a little losing streak here. It's always my concern with the Mariners, right? As Mariner fans, I say all the time, this team was 3-time defending AL West champs. I probably wouldn't even be batting an eye at any loss at this point, but I just get so nervous that one loss is going to turn into 7 in a row, and it's like, oh, that's what triggered the losing streak. So hopefully Logan gets some dialed in tomorrow. Have a great night, everybody. Sorry for a quicker video. I just don't have much to add on this one. Baseball, be better on the base pass, guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all tomorrow. It'll be later tomorrow. Again, afternoon game, but won't be home till later. So just be on the lookout for the recap. Take care, everybody. And as always, go Mariners. Peace.